Good afternoon. We're in the Mishnah Berurah Kuf Ches. We're going back one halacha. I skipped one by mistake, which is 108.8. And we're talking about missing davening, that we can make up davening with a tfilas tashlumin, with a make-up shmona esrei. So if we forget mincha, then we daven two marivs. If we get mariv, two shacharises, and so on. So we learned that this halacha only applies if somebody missed davening or circumstances happened beyond his control. But if he missed davening on purpose, then he lost out. There's nothing he can do about it. He cannot do a make-up shmona esrei, although we did discuss perhaps there's an eitzah. You could look a few classes back, we talked about that. But in general, if someone missed davening on purpose, there is no make-up shmona esrei. Now, what is considered on purpose and what's considered by accident? So today we're going to talk about a few examples. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Mishalo hispalel ba'od sheyesh lo zman lehispalel, mipnei shesavar she'adayin yishar lo zman achar sheyigmar oso esek shehu misasik bo, uben kach avar lo asha. Let's say somebody thought he had time to daven. He got involved in whatever, he had some work to do. So he said, okay, I'll go do some work. And then after I'll daven. But lo and behold, after he finished his work, there was no time left to daven. So that is not considered on purpose. That's called by accident. Someone who was involved with a monetary pursuit, is making money. So he shouldn't come to a loss. And through that, he didn't daven, so he was trying to prevent a financial loss, and because of that, he didn't daven. Also, that's called not on purpose, so he can daven again. V'chein, mishehu shikar v'lo ispalel, somebody is drunk and he didn't daven. So somebody is drunk. The halacha is if you're very drunk, you can't daven. It's not the proper way to speak in front of God when one's drunk. So in that case, that's also considered not on purpose, it's by accident, and he doesn't have to daven. He can still daven again. That's not considered on purpose. Now, there's one case of getting drunk where a person can't daven in because it is considered on purpose. The Mishnah Berurah says earlier in Tzadi Tes Vav that if a person starts drinking right at the end of the time of davening, so let's say there's like 15 minutes left to daven mincha, and then he starts drinking then, and he's super drunk then, or whatever, a half hour left, whatever it is, and he knows that there's absolutely no way that the alcohol will leave his system where I'll have time to daven, then that is considered as missing davening on purpose and he can't make it up. But in general, if someone got drunk and then the time for davening passed, that is not considered on purpose and he can daven again. Kulam chashuv manusim v'yeshlam tashlumin. Miu, so we mentioned that if somebody was involved in a financial loss, he wanted to prevent a financial loss, so he wasn't able to daven, that's considered not on purpose and he can daven again. But the Rama adds, L'chatchila lo yavor zman tefila mishum hefsid mammon. A person should not miss davening for a financial loss. So we'll see what the Bir Halacha has to say on this. So if you have a choice whether to lose money or to daven, according to the Rama, you should daven and lose the money. Wow. So let's see what the Mishnah Berurah has to say, and we'll see if any of these statements become qualified, or if there's other opinions. Also, Asik, va'afilu ima Asik hu me'advarim haniskar b'sim reish lam beis le'isur mishigei zman tefila v'hu hischil be'asik ze be'isur kevin shelo bitla tefila b'sha'ar nefesh she'asar b'lis pal achar shigmar Asik v'shacha achar kach. So he writes that there's many things that a person is not allowed to do when the time for davening arrives. Once the time for davening arrives, we say you're supposed to daven and not get involved in other things. So the Mishnah Berurah writes, even if you weren't supposed to get involved in these other things, and you did anyway, and the time for davening passed, even though you did the wrong thing by starting these, it's not considered on purpose. Since you didn't purposely say, I'm not davening today, that's not considered on purpose, and you could still do a tfilas tashlum and daven and make up shmona esrei. Shelo yavu, v'chein im hayatar liknos v'lim kor scharasav ayidekach avers man tefila. Another case, not just a financial loss, but let's say you're involved in business, you're in the marketplace, and you're buying things and selling things, and then you forget what time it is, and you miss davening. That's also considered circumstances beyond your control or by accident, so you can daven again. So we mentioned also that the Rama holds that if one's faced with a financial loss, he should not miss davening. So he has a choice. Either I could daven, but if I daven, I'm going to lose a lot of money. So the Rama writes, you should daven, and you should lose a lot of money. So how much money are you supposed to lose? So the Bir Halacha says here, he says it's possible that if you're going to lose more than a fifth of your assets, then you can miss davening. Now, the reason is that a person is only required to give up a fifth of his income, a fifth of his assets, to violate a positive commandment. So if one wants to buy, someone is buying an esrog for sukkahs, and the only esrog available is very expensive, and it's very expensive, a person is only required to spend a fifth of his assets to purchase an esrog. So and that's for any positive commandment. So davening, which would seem to be in that realm, the Be'er Halacha says it's possible that one only has to give up a fifth of his income to not miss davening. So he qualifies that statement of the Ramah. Now that's when it comes to davening in general, but what about missing a minyan? Let's say if you go to minyan, you're going to get fired from your job. Are you required to do that? So the Mishnah Berurah writes elsewhere that when it comes to davening with a minyan, if a person is going to have a financial loss, meaning you're going to get fired, then you're allowed to miss a minyan. Right? You don't have to risk your job to davening with a minyan. Obviously, the best thing is to work it out so you can daven with a minyan and go to work. But if your only choice is between a financial loss and davening with a minyan, then you can forego davening with a minyan. But he writes that to make a financial gain, then one should not miss the minyan. So let's say you have a business deal, a lucrative business deal, where you could gain thousands of dollars, but you're not going to lose out if you don't go there. You're just not going to gain. Then you have to daven with a minyan. So a financial loss, one can forego davening with a minyan, but not to forego a gain. Then one has to still daven with a minyan. So just to summarize that if one is faced with a choice, losing money or davening, then a person has to daven, and there's a debate if that's only a fifth of his assets that are at risk. And when it comes to a minyan, one does not have to daven with a minyan if he's going to have a financial loss, but if he's going to have a gain and he's going to lose a financial gain by davening with a minyan, he has to daven with a minyan. And the Mishnah Berurah there says a very inspirational story about a rabbi who was walking to shul, and somebody offered him a great deal to buy some gems and some rubies, and he says, no, I'm on my way to minyan, I can't get involved right now, and he sold it to somebody else, and the rabbi lost out on this great purchase. So how would we feel? We would be very upset, but this rabbi was so happy that he was able to, how valuable his minyan was to him, that he was able to forego a potential huge financial gain in order to daven with a minyan, because he had his priorities straight. We have different priorities very often. His priorities were that davening in service of Hashem is something that is much more important than making money. So, okay. Hope everyone enjoyed, and hope everyone has a great day.